Well, the challenges were on every single front. There wasn't an area in dealing with my spouse that was easy. Not dealing with the children, not dealing with finances, logistics, just getting along. Every aspect of our relationship just unraveled so quickly. It was stunning. And, you know, certainly his behavior was difficult to deal with, but I didn't make it any easier, my own behavior. Had I only had a better control of myself, had I only had a little bit more patience and peace in dealing with him, so many moments could have been averted.
I think we all have to remember that anger is a defense that protects us. You know, the trapped lion in the corner is angry, and it attacks. And so you can easily get into it. A person can easily get into an attack mode, and that will make you a very unhappy person because you don't like attacking all the time, and yet you feel like it.
There seems to be this 0 to 60 miles an hour mentality with your emotions. You just 0 to 60 in a split second. There's arguing, fighting, emotions out of control. It's very volatile.
And you go through the negative behaviors, and everybody does the same thing. You know, they fight with their spouse. How can I hurt them? You know, how can I get even? And what are we going to do about this? And it turns everything is a battle, and it's also negative, and you just think that's the way life is going to be forever.
You know, my husband was engaging in activities that, to me, just had no place in a life of value and a life of, you know, that showed morals. And yet, in the secular world, it seemed like that was acceptable. He decided to walk away from his marriage, and, you know, isn't that okay? And to me, that was just so, there were such huge problems with that, and that was one place where I really struggled, that my value system and the value system of the rest of the world just did not match. There was a total disconnect, and that was incredibly painful and frustrating for me.
To expect that the tension and some of the anxiety will be totally gone, probably not the best expectation. Let's face it, I mean, there was a lot of history that was shared, and some of it, maybe a lot of it, wasn't good. And you're not going to forget that.
I know that one thing I encounter very frequently is that one spouse will initiate essentially the emotional or physical divorce, will move out, will kind of turn off, but the other one is forced to initiate the legal proceedings to actually make it formal, and that can be very difficult. It can feel like you're being forced to do something that you don't want to do. And so there are plenty of triggers that will come up that will, you know, make you feel like you're in a very unfair situation and that you're being essentially punished or hurt by someone that you spent a lot of time giving to. One kind of path to healing, I think, is to recognize that when we enter into a committed relationship, we have needs. We have needs for feeling personally adequate, personally respected and competent, and we have needs for being loved and affirmed. And everyone has those needs. And in our close relationships, we tend to give those needs over to the other person in some way. We ask them to begin to meet those for us. We ask them to make us feel loved and admired and affirmed and validated and respected. But when the relationship ends, especially in a divorce, I think it's very important to become conscious of where you have given those needs over and where you have to begin to take them back a little bit. And recognize that you can't expect this person anymore to provide for you the kind of affirmation and validation and respect that you would want from somebody that you care about.
It's understanding what you can control in the situation and what you can't control. Finding a balance. God doesn't want us to be a doormat and be walked all over, but he certainly doesn't want us to contribute to the fighting as well. So what can you control in your situation? Yourself. You cannot control your spouse. You cannot control your ex-spouse's actions or thoughts. And so when it comes down to it, if you are prepared to control yourself, not simply your emotions, but your words, not only does that set a tone for the encounter that you're going to have, but it also sends a message to your ex-spouse, which says, I won't live that way.
I have to say that one thing I've learned is I can only control my own behavior, and what a lesson that's been. I mean, there's a lot of peace there when you kind of recognize the fact that you can't control the way somebody's going to greet you, or the things they're going to bring up, or the fact that the baby won't be bathed when they bring them back, or whatever the issue might be. The fact that you can't control that, and that you can only control your reaction to it, brings a lot of peace and a lot of, it just keeps life a lot calmer.
I think that one of the more practical things that a person can do that is having to fight a continual sense of anger is to remember that they're angry because they're hurt. And that hurt is the first part of that, and it's easier to feel angry than it is to feel hurt. And the second part is, I think that a very simple exercise that can really work is to pretend like you're 80 years old and you're looking back at your life and you're trying to think of what you regret and what you don't regret and what you wish had happened, what you didn't, what you had done, what you haven't done. And it will probably give you some guidance as to what you don't want to do and what you would wish later that you hadn't done.
It's critically important that if there's children involved, that you never show any anger in front of the children towards each other, or talk badly about the other parent towards each other, because that tends to feed fan the flames, and that keeps being brought up over and over again. So children are an opportunity every time to make a decision whether or not you're going to work hard to keep the peace, or you're going to continue to fan the flames. They're going to just do nothing but cause more angst and problems in the relationship.
There are no major victories. There are little, small, daily victories. You know, holding my temper in check when I really would rather not. Having a handoff with the kids that goes smoothly, where nothing other than here are the kids and here is their stuff is exchanged. That's a victory.
I think it's important that you learn to take care of yourself, to protect yourself, and to nurture yourself, to respect and respond to the valid needs that you have, that everybody has.